Okay, it's on.
On behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the NNPA, we're very pleased to join the 2021 Public School Week. We thank Education First. We thank all of our partners. And on behalf of Dr. Elizabeth Primus of the NNPA Education Awareness Program, we just want to add a few comments on how important our public schools are. Overwhelmingly, the majority of students in school today attend public schools. And so we want to reaffirm on behalf of the Black press the importance of getting a public school education. But we also know there are a lot of disparities. We're still amidst a devastating COVID-19 pandemic. And so as public policymakers, as school administrators, as government leaders, both at state level, county level, and at the federal level, all contemplate how to reopen the schools. We want to make sure that African-American students and people of color, other people of color communities are not triaged. We want the best interest for every student, no matter what race, no matter what socioeconomic status. All should have an equal opportunity, equal access to the highest quality education. Education is so important in 2021. And now that there's a new administration in Washington, the Biden-Harris administration, we're hopeful that the new Secretary of Education, the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, those school administrators throughout the country, and also working with all of the groups that represent teachers, that represent administrators. There are many stakeholders when you talk about public education, but the biggest stakeholders are those families, those parents, those students, those children, those communities that so vitally need a good, high quality education. And so there are three issues. One is equal access. We want to make sure that African-American students and other persons of color have equal access to the best high quality education, even during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are issues in our community that challenge some of the distant education because broadband access is not equally distributed in a lot of our communities. So there are some technical challenges, there's some technical hurdles that have to be overcome in distance education. And in practicing all of the Center for Disease Control mandates on what it would be to have safe public schools reopening, we want to make sure that all those guidelines are followed for all children, but particularly those in underserved communities. I think one of the reasons why African Americans and other persons of color are so devastated by COVID-19 is because of the pre-existing conditions. Not just pre-existing health conditions, which are major, but also pre-existing environmental conditions, pre-existing socioeconomic conditions. All these things come together to impinge upon whether or not children from the communities in which we serve have equal access. So that's very important. Number two, we want to make sure that the curriculum and that the provision of education is of the highest quality, that the educational programs and the curriculum and the resources are not only culturally sensitive, but give our young people the best chance to excel in school. Overall, we want to bridge the education gap. We don't want this pandemic to widen the education gap. And I believe that our young people in our communities, and I know as a parent, as a grandparent myself, I know how important it is for families to be engaged in the educational process. So we're encouraging all of our parents, as well as young people, to take public education very seriously. And I know during the previous 4 years, there was sort of a backing off of having a strong commitment to public education. On behalf of the Black Press of America, we want to reassert that it is vital to the health and welfare of our nation, of the United States of America, to have the strongest, the most advanced public education system. And that means we have to have the best trained teachers, the best trained administrators, but it also means we need all of our parents to be engaged. It's just not about sending your kid off somewhere to get an education. The parents have to accompany their kids to make sure that the education process is in their interest. I want to thank the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for assisting the National Newspaper Publishers Association in making some provisions so that we can work with educators. And we thank some of the panelists during this 2021 Public Education Week. We thank all of the researchers. We thank all of the scholars that have written papers and take a public position. We thank all of the organizations that we work for. I just want to let you know that the Black Press, we support our public schools. We support public education. We support equality and equity in the provision of education. Another thing that the Biden-Harris administration has focused on, which we agree with, is the question of equity. Equity in the allocation of resources, equity in making sure that all of the advances in innovation and technology, that those advances and innovations are also accessible by the communities in which we serve. So I come to 2021 Public Education Week with a sense of renewed optimism. I have great hope. I know there's a yearning, there's a hunger and a thirst for truth and for the best education among our communities, among our families. And I just want our educators this week to know that the Black Press supports you, we salute you, and we should maintain whatever partnerships we can create to make sure that everybody takes seriously how important our public school systems are. We need to strengthen our public schools. Our teachers need better and higher salaries. Our administrators need more support. And we need those public policy decisions and made at the congressional level and also made at the state legislative level, as well as the county level. We need all public policies to enhance and to strengthen our public school system. I believe that 2021 should be the turnaround year where we can regain some of what was lost during the height of the pandemic. The pandemic is still very high. I don't want anybody to relax. We still have to social distance. We still have to wash our hands. We still have to wear those masks. And we have to follow the guidelines for public schools that are being re-updated regularly by the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. But please, those who are listening to this message, know that we support you. We have 230 African-American owned newspapers across the country, and a lot of them focus on education issues, public education issues, public school system issues that we will continue to follow and to address. This is the 194th year of the Black Press of America. And for the last 194 years, since Freedom Journal was first published in 1827, in New York City, the Black Press has been on the front line, not only reporting the news, but we're an advocate for freedom, justice, and equality. And we are an advocate for a strong, sustainable public school system. God bless you, and we salute you on 2021 Public Education Week. Thank you very much.